is a lot more of a factor for streaming.
No, I agree with you. Raj, you have tasted both mainstream success and you've been an indie star. You've got a national award. You've done a global film. In fact, you were one of the artists who, moved to streaming very early. You did not blink twice. You did The White Tiger with us, which did so well. You did Monica, Oh My Darling, and I promise everyone it wasn't named after me. But, and I fought hard to not name it that, but well, we know what happened to that. And now you've done Guns and Gulabs, the series with us as Tipu, and now you're turning producer with us with your film Toaster. Do you feel that, when you're in streaming, do you take, as talent, as an actor, are you more open to creative risks and bets? Do you push harder? How do you look at it as an actor and an artist?
No, actually it doesn't make a difference. As an actor, like I'm sure in writing it does make a difference when you're writing for a series, but as an actor, the process remains the same. I still have to just live the part truthfully. The only thing I would say is, if you're doing a series, then you can take those long pauses and be there. But in films, you have to be slightly maintain that pace if it's that kind of a film. Like in Breaking Bad, of course, the whole episode is about him getting rid of that housefly. So you can't do that in films. You can do that in series. That's the only difference. Apart from that, I think the process remains the same. Your sincerity, honesty towards the character remains the same. So for me, I never act thinking like, what's the medium that I'm acting for. Monica, Oh My Darling could have been a theatrical, and it would still have been the same film. Nothing would have changed.
But do you, like when you read a script, do you feel that it's, on streaming you have to push the bar, you have to reinvent yourself more, or you get the opportunity to try roles that probably you may not get?
No, in my case, I've been very lucky that I've been trying to reinvent since my first film. It's not because of the streaming. In theatrical films also I do that, and that's what keeps me going. And of course, in series you can, or in films, original films, you can take that risk slightly way more than the theatrical. As you said, that series gives you that opportunity, that chance to explore the character way more, way deeper than theatrical films. So yeah, when it comes to streamings, yeah, you can take that chance, take that part that, maybe I can try this, maybe I can run for maybe half a minute and not think about that, but it's going to be a really long shot. So I think that helps. That's the only difference I would say. That's the difference between streaming and theatrical. But apart from that, the process is the same for an actor.
The little anecdote that I wanted to share actually to your point, Sudhir, was that we were doing a session with director Wang, who's made Squid Game, and I asked him a question that did he think of it differently when he was writing for Netflix? Like, did he approach Squid Game a little differently? Because he had brought it as a film script and he made it into a series. So he said something which was very interesting, which was that he maintained the purity of the idea because he had to. That was his idea, that was what he wanted to make, but he saw the potential in what a global, and I want to just say, he was not saying global from a, like a global perspective. He didn't know how big the show would become, but he knew that Netflix as a service would take his story to as many audiences that it could possibly reach. He didn't know whether it would do well, not well. Nobody had an idea what a rage and a sensation it would become. But he said that he saw potential in that how could he do the same story in a way that it could find its biggest audience by not making it complex and actually putting themes which were so universal that they would move audiences beyond his own country. So I found that very interesting actually. And on the subject of that, I wanted to ask each of you this, and I get asked this often, that you have so many successful shows and movies, whether it's Heeramandi, Bads, Chamkila, Kapil Sharma, and so many others. they travel so many countries. Licensed cinema travels so many countries, and we are trending in usually 50 to 80 countries on any given day, depending on what title it is. But when will India have its Squid Game moment, the global moment? So, Sudeep, to you as a creator, do you think, what is that story from India that can actually become a global moment? I think we are ready as a platform to enable stories to go there, but as a creator, do you think we have those stories culturally? Do you think we need it? How do you feel about it?
Yes, I think a story like that is around the corner. We also have to realize that we came to the streaming game or the long form television game very late. So it's only in the last 10 years since Sacred Games game was we really got on to this bandwagon. So it's been a really steep learning curve for filmmakers, creators, writers here. The first few years were spent really in figuring out the nuts and bolts of the of long form writing and of long form filmmaking. But I think now we are ready. I think we have had there's a generation of creators in the last 10 years who have had that experience and who have made some very good shows. And now I think we are going on to that next stage. In the next 10 years, I feel we are going to see a Squid Game coming out of India.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear that. We are already, waiting for that to happen. Sameer, what kind of a story do you think, can actually really break out from India? And by the way, Sacred Games, in those days, when it came season 1, 2 out of every 3 audiences that we had were from outside India. So it had that kind of fandom and love when it came out, so it was already traveling.
But, I think, we all know that, whenever you tell a story, you're always telling a story for your core audience. You always start with that. And then, if it works for the core audience, then sometimes you get lucky. And it travels and it resonates well. So this big problem that India has, that when is going to be our global moment, is, I think we beat ourselves up a lot over this matter. We have to be a country of 1.5 billion people, and we are trying to entertain them. The rest of the world also should be entertained, and thankfully now that the technology exists to do that, I'm sure that moment will happen. And I think there is not any particular kind of story or genre. It's going to be stories that are deeply local and personal and universal. And it's going to be something, it could be a crime thriller calling. Like Indians are watching Narcos and Money Heist for some reason. So that's concerning because we got nothing to do with the Colombian drug lords. We should be interested in Dawood, but we are. So I think that's a moment to happen. But as Sudeep said, that in the last 10 years, when we've been actually exposed to long form cinematic television, writing, producing in that manner. Before that, for better or worse, we were ruled by the Daily Soap, and it became a whole generation that grew up doing that. You either make a movie or you make a Daily Soap. That's totally scripted content that we created. So I think this learning curve has been good. We've learned, we have become much better at it, we have become smarter at it. We are learning each day from all the subsequent seasons that we do. So I think the craft is there, the people is there, the talent is there, now the tech is there. So I think it's a moment of time now.
No, I think great point, Sameer. Actually, the more local we are, the more rooted we are, the more we cater to our own audiences. Because also, the way streaming is designed, it has to work for your own audience, your own country. It has to become big in your country for it to actually travel as we go along. So I think that's a very important point, and we often forget there is nothing called a global story or a global success.
And just one more thing on that is that even when you take shows that travel, from the 4 of us, it will be hard for us to name more than 10.
Absolutely.
So we say Squid Game, but that's one. Then you say Money Heist, that becomes 2.
Yeah.
Then Narcos becomes 3.
Yeah.
Then you start struggling. Even this. So it's not like anyone else is doing it either.
Yeah.
It's just that we should and we will, I suppose.
Raj, as an actor, what kind of a story do you think, if you're looking at a script and you say, oh my God, this is going to work for people everywhere. Do you feel when you're reading, you get that thrill sometimes that this could really be a breakout story? And I don't just mean global, like just a breakout. Like how do you feel?
we have such enriching literature in our country, and then we have had such amazing stories from Mahabharata and so many other textbooks. So I think somebody just has to write them because it's very engaging, it's very enriching, great part of our literature, and very rooted in our culture. So I think these are the kind of stories I think which would connect with our audience first and can also go, as we said, global. Because I think these are the stories that people would like to watch that we haven't made yet. I think.
If we had to make a fiction series on you, Raj, on your life, who do you think should play you? Of course not you.
Oh, who should play me? Oh wow. First he has to write it for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
Deep has to write
He's
it.
one of the best writers we have. in
And
the
Sameer
country.
will
Yeah.
produce it?
Yes.
Or you would want to produce it yourself?
With that we can talk. Yeah, we'll be partners here. I don't know. I think I haven't done much in life, to be honest, that somebody should make a film or a series on my life. I'm a very hungry actor. I would love to act in that as well. Yeah. It's a very interesting life for sure.
Definitely. And Sameer, if your life as the media personality that you have been and what you're doing, if your life had to be a genre, what would you choose? Would it be a thriller? Would it be a drama?
I choose Succession.
All right.
That was a nice show in this.
Yes, lovely. And
Right, that one as well.
see, we are making sure that we are parking a lot of work, ideas and work with Sudeep here, a lot of back-breaking work, as I would say. But Sudeep Kora season 2 is coming very soon. It's a brilliant season. Even if I say so, and you will say so because we are involved with it, but it's genuinely a very powerful and moving story. How did you, I mean, I know we can't talk about the topic, but, and you have been telling stories that are very deeply moving, but as a creator, do you sometimes feel that I want to shake this off and do something completely different? Feel free to shed some light on new things you're doing.
Yes, you do. You know, once in a while you feel that I was at that moment, and hence the next one that we are doing together. It's a big change. It's not dark. It's not a thriller. It's a comedy. The new show that we are doing.
Not Kora, the other one.
Not Kora.
The other one.
Kora it is dark and it is thrilling.
Yes, it's dark and thrilling. But do you think as a writer, as a storyteller, like when you do such dark and moving stuff, gritty, is it that easy to switch to a lighter genre? Like, is it that possible? Like, how do you reinvent yourself?
I don't think I don't think it is that difficult personally because I've never defined myself as somebody who only writes dark stuff. It just so happened. It was also that phase, you know. And what happens and what I meant by backbreaking, if I could explain. The thing with streaming is you do one. If it works, then you end up doing 2 or 3. So it's, you know, and then you're like, oh, he likes this kind of stuff, which might not necessarily be true. If it was a film, I would have probably done 1 and then written something completely different, you know. But it wasn't so difficult. It wasn't so difficult to change gears because the inherent principles of telling a good story, they remain the same. You know, it's just the genre has changed, but you're still looking at it from the lens of the storyteller, and you say, okay, this time around, instead of making them grim or making them flinch, my job is to have them laugh. Now, how do I do it in the best possible way with all the tools of the story available?
I think one of the most important things that I experience every day in streaming is how much I learn. Every single day, all of us are learning from how we are seeing the audiences respond to something, the absolutely new ideas that actually reach you every single day, which I don't think was happening at the, velocity earlier or even currently in other mediums. I think the velocity at which the innovation is happening, the new ideas are coming, the learnings are happening, is at a different scale in streaming, and I really feel very energized with that every day. If I have to ask each of you, what are your learnings that have happened from streaming? Because each of you look at streaming, what you've done with Netflix, what you've done, on other platforms. From a certain, every project must be giving you a learning which can be very useful to people, who are either producing or acting, looking to give a pitch. So, Sameer, to start with you, what are you learning, or what have you learned over your last few years in streaming?
I think the biggest thing that we've learned is that, storytelling tends to be very personal. As in, it always starts with an audience of one, that you like the story, that's why you want to tell the story. And then you want to gather a bunch of people to listen to that story. So having these story listeners is very important in our business. Otherwise, we'll be just telling stories to ourselves. But after that, the one important thing that is that storytelling also tends to be quite personal and unique. So it's trying to find that, the holy grail is to get the widest possible audience for your story. That's the holy grail. Most of the time, you're not going to succeed in doing that. So you try and find your niche and try and make your niche as big as possible, so that at least that can be done. Which is why we have genres and we have this is a thriller and this is a slow burn and all of that. And then as we are learning to do this, we just we've learned how to write better. We learn a lot more jargon from all the platforms. We learn about propulsive pacing. We know about drop-off rates, completion rates. And these are all important things. It's important thing because then at least you're creating this kind of content, you're creating it with this kind of an audience. This is what your audience expects. It's like how movies go. In the movie you have to start the middle and the end, and then you have this set of songs and this and that. Then you have a pre-climax song, then the climax and then go home to the moral of the story. But there was a system of doing these things. And I think streaming has taught us a lot of that. You watch all the international shows, there's lots to learn. How to tell these stories, how to tell them better. I think we are making Gandhi now. So Gandhi is an equal part, deeply personal story for India and England. But we are trying to get best practices from everywhere. Anything that we've seen in the last 10 years is being applied in doing that. So I think there's lots to learn. I think that the good thing about technology and the connectivity now is that we also get to interact with a lot of international talent. And so if you talk to international talent, when you speak to writers who brought, editors who brought what they're doing, it's just good learning. So I think the good thing about this business is that if your eyes open, ears open, I think there's brain open, then there's lots to go.
It's expanded, the opportunity to learn from so many different people across the world. Actually, it's a very thrilling time for all of us. I feel finally we are being able to make things that we enjoy watching ourselves. Raj, what are your learnings?
Honestly, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out. It's actually like theaters. Sometimes a very average, below average film works very well on streaming platforms, and you wonder, really, this one did so well, and a really good film, and nobody talks about that film, and you're like, what's happening? In like theaters. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of algorithm, there's a lot of data and analysis, which I think as creative people we don't understand. Like I'm pretty sure when Kapoor made Godfather or when Manmohan Desai sir made Amar Akbar Anthony, they didn't think about ये मेरी target audience है, इसलिए बनाऊंगा ये state में इतना. They just wanted to tell those stories. So I think if that is something which I'm not saying about learning, but I'm saying that is something which I'm missing. That we have become, I feel, too analytical. Like we are becoming too data-based. Yeah. And not telling stories which are from the heart, which I think Rishabh Shetty has done wonderfully in Kantara. He didn't think about कि मैं इस audience के लिए बना रहा हूँ. He just told that story with full conviction and made a beautiful film out of it and hit it out of the park. So that is something I as a creative person, as an actor, I miss. I really miss. I miss seeing good actors on screen, be it streaming or theaters. And I just feel we listen more to our heart, and our storytelling is more from the heart than anything else.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The biggest algorithm, though, is word of mouth. Anything which is appreciated by audiences has a tremendous word of mouth, and actually that's what makes it work on streaming. It's not any sort of, no one can force you to watch something in the comfort of your home or on your phone. It's your time, it's very precious. You will watch when you have validation. And a lot of people on your own discovery, and when you know, friends, family, your circles, or you're hearing from everywhere that, oh, you must watch this. So I think that is the strongest metric of what success is, or what love for a story is. And Sudeep, for you, what you as a storyteller have felt, or the, you know, and I'm looking to you as representing the creators and writers, do you feel that the talent pool is growing fast enough? Do we have enough new voices? Are we, you know, there is a huge demand to tell more stories, but do you think we are equipped to do that?
I think we're getting there, but more needs to be done in that regard. I think writing is one area which we really need to focus on. There are not enough good screenwriting schools in the country, and I think that's one area that's really lacking. Most of us learn on the job, which is doable, but it's also, you know, you're not coming in. If you have to come on the job and learn the basics, it's a little, you know, it just makes the process a little difficult. And I think that is one. We have great actors. We have great. In fact, we have much better directors than we have writers, if I may say so. You know, because it's a lot easier to learn direction while you're working in the filmmaking process. With writing, it's a little tough because it's mostly, especially what happened with films was there was one writer. So in one film there was one writer getting trained instead of say 5 or 6 ADs who are getting trained while they are working on you know, in the direction team. And I think that's one area which needs improvement. We need more of that. But you know, it's a better scenario than what it was, because we all just came in blind. And you know, I remember my first writers' room, and the writers came in the first day and said, okay, what is it that we do in the writers' room? And I was like, we'll figure. You know, it was really that, because we had really no idea how to write a series, you know, and how to even work with each other. And it's really been, you know, upwards. Really steep learning curve from there. But just even the amount of work that's happening now, it certainly exploded. We weren't really ready for it, and you know, and in that sense, there was some shoddy job also that was, you know, that was greenlit or it was coming out because, you know, that was the need of the hour. But I hope going forward there is a little more effort that comes from the industry itself. You know.
No, I completely agree, and I think you made a very pertinent point. And before I've been asked to throw to the audience for some questions, so then not to me. But I completely sort of second that. I think the future of streaming, and considering it allows stories of all kinds, such diverse, rich storytelling that can come from all corners of India and really represent our audience and delight our audience. I think the one thing that really can be transformative, can give us the global moment, and can give us stories from the heart, and really make, you know, this medium reach its full potential is writing. So as an industry, if we nurture more writers, if we mentor, if we have programs, and as Netflix, we really try to do, we're doing a lot of workshops, but I think it will take a village to really come together, because there is so much potential of streaming and where our stories could go. And if we could get more writers and more amazing writing and talent pools opening up, I think that would be great. So, any questions from the audience? Oh, we don't, I thought there was time. Oh, so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Yeah. I just want to ask
There's one question.
Mr. Rajkumar, what kind of the latest generation movie, AI movie, you would like to perform?
It's a wrong person to ask. I'm not somebody who's very much in favor of AI films. Yeah. A machine is a machine. It can never replace humans.
Very well
It can be a
answered. We
supportive
can take
tool,
one
but
last question.
it can be a
One
supportive
last
tool, but not you can't be totally dependent on that.
Thank you.
One last question, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe from the youngest person in the hall, we can take that question from.
Hi, my name is Navya, founder of DC Voice. We are working on real artists for AI productions. With that being said, my question is to Sunil. When it comes to writing a film, how much is that being inspired from the memes? Because in recent films, you've seen a lot of dialogues in the films being inspired by the memes or the common dialogues that people say. So how much that comes into the picture while writing the screenplays, the dialogues?
Again, I think you're asking the wrong person. I am not on social media and I don't look at memes. I've never looked at an Instagram feed. So, really, I'm one of those.
That's why he writes so well with it.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. A huge round of applause for
Thank you
all
very
our
much.
distinguished speakers. And before we close the session, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Prasanjit Chatterjee, who is a renowned Bengali cinema actor, to kindly do the honors for us on presenting a token of appreciation.
Till now, all that growth has been very sporadic. The Hindi medium worked in China. We still depend very heavily on the diaspora audience. There have been very few stories, even as India, that have broken out. But I think the time is now. So for that, you need partnerships, you need collaborations, and you need those minds that are across India to be connected, not just depend on the cities. And I think that's happened. So we're going to very actively try and make films for the world, but not forget where we came from.
Amazing. So Charlie, you come from a company that's made Sicario, Star is Born, and if those two films don't mean anything to you, I'm sure John Wick will. So it's a company that also made the mightily successful John Wick. I don't know how many narrations I've sat in where a filmmaker comes and says, it's John Wick meets Extraction. So it sort of became a reference point to that genre of films. And but Charlie is here on this panel, not because he made all those films, but because he's currently in India in pre-production for a film called The Peasant, which is written by Dev Patel, very own Dev Patel, and it also stars Dev Patel, and it's set in India with Indian setting and Indian characters. However, it's an English language film. It's a Hollywood film that's being made for the global audience. So, Charlie, your take on India to the world?
Well, I think it's very interesting because one of the things, as well as AI, that has really democratized the world of content in the last 10 years is Netflix and Amazon. And so the sort of traditional cultural dominance that Hollywood once had has gone away. And the world has been opened up to, movies like RRR, or shows like The Sacred Games, and the whole sort of Korean explosion. And so as that sort of democratization has happened, I think also Western audiences now have a much greater appetite for something fresh and different. And if you just look at this year in Hollywood, the films that have worked are the films that are completely fresh, unique, and different. So, Uncle Weapons or K-pop Demon Hunters. And as a result, I think Hollywood is looking for stories that don't just feel like the same old stories. And I think, even 2 years ago, if I had told you that I was going to be producing an action film that was going to be entirely set in India, in medieval India, somewhat in English but also in Hindi, and that a major American studio was going to give us a good amount of money to make it, I think I would have been laughed out of the room. But I think that this appetite for fresh and different is so sort of strong right now. And I think that when I think of India, I think of what was the largest economy, incredibly rich tradition of craftsmanship, going back thousands of years, whether it's fashion, music, dance, art, and it sort of hasn't really been represented enough, I think, within Hollywood. And so no, I think India's world for me represents a massive opportunity that hasn't really been tapped enough yet, certainly by Hollywood.
All the best. So next is one of my very favorite storytellers, and Sri Ram, and I'm very, very partial to him. Some of his stories are my favorite genre, the neo-noir, Johnny Gadar, Andhadhun, Badlapur. It's my favorite genre. And I think it's one of those genres that tends to cross over the most. You tend to consume that genre across all languages. So when I look back on many, many foreign films that I've watched, a lot of them would be of that genre. And now you're, telling a story. I think Ikkis is coming out later in December, which is an Indian patriotic film. But Sriram, before you get to Ikkis, I really like, you read so much, you're a consumer of world cinema, you watch cinema avidly. Your take on India to the world?
I mean, I just feel, I think there are a few of us who are writers and filmmakers here. So from my point of view, basically, there are some stories which can travel. They can be universal. Every story can be made in Hindi cinema cannot be liked by everyone across the world. But there are some stories that will work. Likewise, like for example, in the story, my film Andhadhun did very well in China, 6 months after release here, and did about 4 times the business of India. I don't know how it happens, but then people ask me, and I said maybe it's because it's a sort of a genre film, it's a suspense thriller which has no real language. The language of cinema actually will translate. And sometimes there are stories which, for example, the one I'm doing now, I have to get to Ikkis as for my PR team. So in Ikkis, it's a story which is about a war set in India in 1971, but it can be set in any war. The story can happen in any country, any 2 countries it can happen. So, and today with all the, chaos and fighting going on, I feel it's a bomb kind of film. At the same time, it's an action film, it's a drama and so on. So possibly some films will work much more than others. So I can't say, but when we, as filmmakers, when I try to write a story, I'm writing it not for Indian or I'm writing for as many cinema lovers as I can. So that's the reason.
We're tired of America saving the world. It's high time India saves the world, right?
Let's
and
save the movies.
sort of start using the soft power which shows India saving the world, right? So last but not the least, Guneet needs no introduction. We all, talk about...
Thank you.
2-time Oscar winner. She's brought the Oscar home twice, not once, but twice. She's hustled her way to where she is now, full of spirit, full of life, and there's quite simply no one like you, Guneet. You epitomize India to the world as far as I'm concerned, in terms of recent efforts to put Indian stories, and you're all the time hustling to collaborate and work with people without figuring out how you're going to make any money. So over to you, your take.
Thank you, and thank you for putting together this incredible panel, and thank you for having me here. Good evening, everybody. I think ever since I came into the business as a producer, I've always imagined, I think my default setting is how do we take the story and put it and have the whole world watch it. I think my brain works like that. So whenever I do enter a film, I think about it. I very consciously put thought and effort and reach out to people who could guide me in that genre, understand. And yes, that has led to building a peer group around the world. That led to a collaboration and India's first Indo-French co-production called Lunchbox that I was a lead producer on. And that led me and tell our story to the whole world and have like a beautiful distribution. We had a full non-diaspora distribution, and because of Dharma partnering on India distribution, the diaspora came along. And that was a film without songs, and that was 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And many years years later, then comes a film called Kill that also broke out at Toronto and was that genre film that really got that level of distribution that Lunchbox got, but at accelerated numbers. When you do say that I do those collaborations with no money, I do want to correct you there because we did make a lot of money. And we made a lot of money in Lunchbox also, And I think the reason one is thriving and building Sikya is opening new territories, but I can't do this alone. I wanted, just a moment here, and when you ask me India to the world, for a moment, I just want to tell you a fact. 2023 Academy Awards was RRR, All That Breathes, and Elephant Whispers. And that is India. So we can't put all kinds of storytelling in one box. We are all different and unique and bring our merit to the table. As epic is RRR, and I think did a lot of heavy lifting, opening the non-diaspora doors, so did the HBO release, Shaun Sain's All That Breathes, and so did the Netflix release, Elephant Whispers. Puts our conversation, our language, our skin color, our skill set, our people, our crew on the global map. And year on year, and that is also something that happened with Kill. Yes, genre does travel. Genre transcends languages. You can say a lot with genre. I'm mind blown by a film called Weapons, or even this year's Sinners. Genre travels and opens doors. But I just think at the center of it, we just got started. And what Dinesh said is absolutely correct. We have the best stories. We are the land of stories. And I think it is on us learning and building those collaborations early on, having those conversations early on, because a global distribution needs 6 months of roadmap and of a plan. It just doesn't happen the day you finish the film. It actually starts the day you incept and you think, this is the script that I'm going into and this is the genre I'm making. That day you decide who your global partner will be and how you plan to distribute it, how you plan to take it forward. We live in a world of 100% equity. We actually make many films and money through studios, and making films comes much easier to us than in Europe or even in US. There is a certain science to how everybody works. So we have a banging and a thriving diaspora. And I think we are still a very long way out when it comes to building the non-diaspora. So yes, there will be a Coda, there will be a Minari, there will be a Past Lives, there will be an Everything Everywhere all at once. And then there is your big Black Panthers of the world. So the whole range is always there. There is the independents and there is the mainstream. So somewhere in between is what I do.
Thank you for that, Vineet. So I think my next question I'll go to Dinesh, sorry. The question would be, Hollywood sort of makes 30-35% of its revenues from domestic US, and 70% of their revenues comes from all the international markets that have embraced Hollywood. For us, it's the reverse. 70% of our revenues comes from India, and we're just about getting our deliveries out on Wednesday or Thursday for a Friday release. And about 20-30% of our revenues comes from outside of India. So when we make big statements like India to the world, how will we reverse this 70-30? And what would it take to get there? Considering that we also license global rights to platforms like Netflix and Amazon, who just put money on the table and we take it.
That's a long one, but let me start with my experience. So I feel that when an Indian filmmaker early on makes a film, he's just trying to not lose his house. And if somebody comes and gives him money, like it happened with the East Indian Company a long time ago, we'll sign anything. And I think the problem starts there. The problem is of belief. We don't believe in our own content, So we're not willing to go the whole hog. So, unless an accident happened, which happened to us in 2017 when we wanted to make a film called Stree, and I heard stories like a film called Stree can never work in theatres. Now guess what, Stree 2 is the highest grossing Hindi film of all time, so clearly they don't know what's going on and the power of women, right? But what I learned along the way, and I think somewhere Jyoti also helped a lot, that owning the whole piece is important if you want to go global. So if you just look at the digital contracts we signed, we're really happy that this much of my cost of production is out. If you actually analyze that contract, I hope Monica's not here, from the first one you signed till now, you have chipped away so many rights that even if you make a film that Guneet you believe can go international, it won't go international. Because your rights are so limited that you'll not be able to get a non-diaspora theatrical release because of the windowing. So I think somewhere it has to start with owning it, not de-risking, and like Guneet said, from day one knowing that this is a film I want to go global with. So when we are making a Maha-Avatar, it's not up for sale on any rights because we don't know how far it can go. It is probably the most Indian film we are making. But it's taken us 20 years to be in a position to make a film that size and not sell it. And that's our too big to try and go there. So I think it'll require perseverance because it's not happened before. I don't think, like all the films that we have mentioned have just taken a piece of the global box office. But I think I would rather be an opening batsman in India than be a 13th man or a reserve. So I want to go out there and hit something that goes all the way. Now that's going to require immense effort, great partnerships, a lot of learning from Guneet, and deep pockets. If you get those four right, hopefully in 24 months I can answer that question better.
Well played. So Manish, from fashion to films.
Style and Stardust than my actual notebooks. I've always stayed with my parents. In fact, recently asked my mother, how come you never stopped me? Because parents say that study and all of that. So she was like, no, that's the only thing that you love. And likewise, when I told her I want to become a fashion designer in 1989 and want to get into costumes, she was like, never heard, what is a fashion designer? So tailor bender. So, but still, not looking down on being a tailor, she supported it. So I think that's been the dream. So it's, I want to write, I want to direct, I want to produce on my own terms. I might not be able to do it for too long, but it's very high on cost. But then there are people like you who come and support. And that's how we can make different content. For me, it was very important that I start a production company which is very clean. It's almost like a, like an intimate and independent production house, which makes unusual films. Films that a lot of big producers won't take up. And those are the kind of films and stories that I would like to take up and back. And maybe someday I'll hit out of the park.
The next one is going to be glittery and sparkly.
Yes, absolutely.
And big. Huh?
Yeah. As glam.
And quintessentially Manish.
Yes.
So Shekhar, coming to you. Mr. India, a timeless classic. Mausam. Every time I think about Mausam, sorry. Every time I think about Mausam, Mausam is great as well. But Mausam, I mean, I don't think I've ever cried more in a film as I have cried, and we were talking about it the other day. So tell us about these two and tell us about what are you thinking about and just to peep into your mind.
Something that he said about the family that he comes in. My dad could never understand. I was a child accountant who stepped into cinema and he said, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to? He could never understand. And then Elizabeth was nominated for 8 Oscars. And it was nominated for the best film. Those days it was only 5 films, so I called my dad, and this is how the conversation goes. Middle class, that's how it goes. So I said, Dad, my film has just been nominated for the Oscars. Well done, son. Dad, it's just been nominated as one of the 5 best films of the year. Well done, son. Aren't you proud of me? Well done, son. Long pause. Doctor, okay? He said, Peter, does that mean you'll get another job? That's the background we all come from. So, I always make all my films as if I'm every character. So, it's tough. But Masoom, I was Nasir Khanka. I was one of the things. Because till I can become and be the character, I don't know how to write or play the character. So here's the question. Was I Mogambo?
Were you pushed?
There was a mini-me. There was an 11-year-old boy sitting next to me all throughout when I was shooting straight there. After every shot, I would say that 11-year-old kid, 11-year-old saying, how was that? Very much boring, yeah? Kya karta hai? So that I would redo the shot. And it literally, there was another person sitting there constantly telling me if this would work with kids. And I remember when I spoke to Amrish, and I said, Mogambo, and he said, Acha, kya, batao? And I said, you have to play it as if you're playing Shakespeare. Huh? Shakespeare? I said, but imagine you're playing it to kids who've never seen Shakespeare. Okay, what else? And I said, imagine you're playing it to kids in a village who've never heard of Shakespeare at all. And that was all my instructions there. And that's how we're going to go push you and make it. So it was a film I had most fun with. Much more fun than Fantasy. So I have to tell you. So I just enjoy the idea. I become the character, I become the film, I talk to myself. And it's an internal journey, making everything.
Masoom?
Masoom was a very internal journey. Yeah, the series in Shah. My first film, he said, Acha, haan bhaiya, he was a big star and big thing. I said, okay, now tell me about the character. I said, the series is you. And he said, that's the best thing I've ever heard. I said, I don't know how else. He's human. That's how we make it. We become human. They're human. I know you don't have to pursue it. You just become a human being in that film. That's how they make that. Cinema is made.
Talking about simple families, my mother still asks me, which kapde bike? So I said, हाँ बिक रहे हैं. So every day she asks me, which kapde bike? I said, Mama, you make me sound like as I go with sarees to every door and say, sari khareed lo. So that's how it is.
So coming to Ishan. Ishan, you're traveling a road less traveled. And your choices are very different, they're very bold, and they are absolutely, your body of work is something that any 30-year-old in the film industry would be envious of. So, tell me, what do you look forward, where do you want to go? Is an Oscar a next goal? Is a national award the next goal? Or do you not bother about any of these and it's just the stories that make your heart beat? What's your process?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack, man. And thank you for paying that kind compliment. I think all I've tried to do is find myself through what I do and try to be authentic to that. And when you say, is it the next story that excites you, I think it's always for an actor, the next story, the next character, the next world that you get to play in is always the most exciting thing. Of course, what you just mentioned right now, these are some of the most, the biggest honors in the world. Having the recognition of, say, an Oscar or a national award would mean so much more to the journey and to the empowerment of a young actor. But, right now, being with the journey of Homebound as the official entry, the official selection for the Oscars from India, and representing India to the world, I think
I'd like to borrow a leaf from what Dinesh sir said, and I really admire what he said about as we go global, the question to ask yourself is who we are and not, lose sight of that. And if I can kind of connect that to the larger thought of AI, I think as we use AI, the way I see it as a tool to tell stories, the question is whose story are we telling? And that begets the question, who are we? And that is human. You know, that is what Sheikh Hassan wonderfully said, is just being human. And that's what I hope as we go forward, is that we're able to really delve deep into that and more efficiently tell our stories, but tell our stories, you know, that are specific to us. The one thing that, while I admire the technical proficiency and the possibilities that AI brings to the table, the one thing that I still question is, what can it not do? And when you type on ChatGPT, you know, what would you want from the human experience, AI will always tell you to feel, to be able to feel. And I think that's what we have that is extremely special, that we can feel and we can connect. And that's what cinema is to. And when you say you cried the most watching Masoom, the question I would, you know, want to ask is, would you be able to cry watching a film? I don't know if we're there yet. That is completely generated by AI. So I just want to be a part of more human stories. I'll go wherever the good work is. I'm very proud that I'm able to represent a young Indian male to the world in a way that perhaps is new. And I want to double down on that and just be a part of bigger stories, wherever they come from, and bring my unique identity to it.
Amazing. Charlie, can I come to you? A little bit of what happens when we try to make stories that appeal to the Western world, or vice versa, is somehow they land somewhere in the middle, which is neither here nor there. You know, if you see the more successful crossover films, whether it's Parasite or Crouching Tiger, they were all, you know, very much local films, true to their local culture, and they broke out and crossed over to a wider market after an Oscar win, etc. So when you look at a film like The Peasant, how are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it as a Hollywood film and, you know, it'll also do well in India because it's got Dev Patel and we've shot it in India, or do you think it's something that can straddle both cultures seamlessly?
I'm just sorry, I'll forget. Do you know what the most successful Indian film overseas has ever been? It was Awara. Yeah, they $30 million at that time.
Russia.
Yeah, Russia and the whole of Eastern Europe and South America and everywhere. We've never done that. Would be about almost 600 million today. So not just Awara. So there was a time when we actually expressed our concept. Awara still stands as the biggest hit ever overseas for India.
No, but I think it's interesting, and just to pick up on what Ishan was saying, I mean, I think at the very beginning it's just about a character in a story. And I think if you know, in the case of The Peasant, it was, you know, this, and actually, in fact, even to think of John Wick is a great example of this, where, you know, we know it now as this sort of broad, big action film series with all this mythology, but it started as a story of a guy whose dog was killed, and who cared so deeply for this guy whose dog was killed that you were then on this road with him, you know, for the rest of the movie. And I think that one of the mistakes that we all make is thinking outside in. So, well, how can we find something that's going to work in both markets? And we think in a sort of market-driven way. But I think, you know, really it has to start with the character and the story and the setting. And, you know, does it resonate? And of course, yeah, and the emotion. And I think, you know, you hope that it will, you know, resonate on this massive global level and be a huge hit. But maybe it won't, and maybe it'll only appeal to like a small subset, and that's okay. And so I think, you know, just thinking about the one that I'm working on now, it really started with the character. You know, we read the script, and it was about this guy